I still remember the smell of charcoal. It clung to everything, our clothes, our skin, the walls of the small single-room house we called home. That smell was my childhood. It was the scent of my mother's hard work, of her endless struggle to make sure we had something to eat, even when the world seemed determined to deny us that basic right. Her hands were always blackened, her fingers rough from years of selling charcoal in the streets of Crofrom. My father died when I was 6. I don't remember much about him, just bits and pieces, a deep laugh, a strong hand that lifted me onto his shoulders, the scent of alcohol and sweat. He was a basic school teacher, but a simple illness took him from us too soon. After that, it was just us, I and my mother. She took on the weight of the world without a complaint, doing everything she could to raise me right. But somehow, along the way, I lost myself. It wasn't easy growing up in Kumasi. Our neighborhood, Crofrom, wasn't exactly the kind of place where dreams flourished. Poverty hung over us like a heavy cloud, and hope was something people talked about in church but rarely saw in real life. Still, Mama did her best. Every day, she'd wake up before the sun, dragging me out of bed so I could help her with the charcoal that we would break the big pieces into smaller ones and put them in black polythene bags. We'd put the polythene bags of charcoal on a head pan, and we'd sell it through the streets, calling out to customers. Buy charcoal. Buy charcoal. Quality charcoal, come and buy, she'd shout, her voice strong despite the exhaustion that was always just beneath the surface. I'd follow behind, pretending to help, but really, my mind was elsewhere. I'd watch the boys in the neighborhood, older boys with flashy clothes, nice shoes, and fat pockets. They didn't spend their days selling charcoal. No, they had money, respect, and, most importantly, freedom. I wanted that life. I wanted out of the endless cycle of poverty that seemed to define us. And that's when I started making mistakes. It started small. I skipped school more often than I attended. My teachers complained to my mother. I started hanging out with the boys who promised me an easier life. They introduced me to things I'd never imagined, fast money, fast women, fast living. I liked the thrill of it all. The danger, the excitement, the feeling of being in control for once in my life. Mother tried to warn me. Kwame, she'd say, her voice heavy with worry, this life you're living, it's not good. You're playing with fire, and it will burn you one day. Come back to school, focus on your studies. Don't end up like those boys. But I didn't listen. I was too far gone, I was married to the streets. I started stealing, small things at first, some coins, a phone here, a wallet there. But soon, I graduated to bigger things. Breaking into houses, robbing people at knife point. The thrill was addictive. And with the money came women, plenty of them. They flocked to me, drawn by the cash and the danger. I was living the life I'd always dreamed of, or so I thought. But the thing about the streets is, they always catch up with you. No matter how fast you run, no matter how clever you think you are, there's always someone faster, someone smarter. And that's exactly what happened. One night, we decided to hit a big house in Dabin. The owner was some rich businessman who was out of town. We thought it would be easy, get in, grab what we could, and get out. But we didn't know the police had been tipped off. They were waiting for us. I still remember the sound of the sirens, the flash of blue and red lights, the shouts of Cromfo oo as we scrambled to escape. My heart pounded in my chest as I ran, but there was no outrunning them. They caught me, dragged me to the ground, one policeman hit my mouth with his boot for giving them a tough time, and they slapped the cuffs on my wrists. That was the end of it. The end of my freedom, the end of my so-called life. The trial was quick. The evidence was stacked against me, security footage, witness statements, stolen goods and drugs found in my possession. I knew there was no escaping it. But what hurt the most wasn't the sentence. It wasn't the life imprisonment that awaited me. No, What broke me was the sight of my mother in that courtroom. She was there every day, sitting quietly in the back, her eyes filled with tears she tried so hard to hold back. She didn't speak, didn't shout or scream. She just looked at me with a sadness so deep it pierced my soul. I had failed her. I had taken all her sacrifices, all her hard work, and thrown it away for a life that led me here, in shackles, facing a future behind bars. The day they sentenced me, I couldn't look at her. I kept my eyes on the floor as the judge pronounced the words that would define the rest of my life. Life in prison. No parole. The words echoed in my mind, but all I could think about was mother. How could I face her now? How could I ever make this right? As they led me away, I heard her voice, soft and broken. Kwame, my son. It was too much. I turned to her, tears streaming down my face. I'm sorry, mother. I'm so sorry. But sorry wasn't enough. Sorry wouldn't erase the years of pain I'd caused her, the dreams I'd shattered. Sorry wouldn't bring back the son she'd hoped to raise, the son she'd lost to the streets. And now, all I had was time. Time to think, to regret, to wonder what could have been if I'd just listened, if I'd just been strong enough to resist the pull of the streets. In prison, time moves slowly. Days blur into weeks, weeks into months. I sit in my cell, staring at the ceiling, replaying my life over and over in my mind. The mistakes, the choices, the moments when I could have turned back but didn't. I think about Mama every day. I wonder how she's doing, if she's still selling charcoal, if she's still struggling to survive. I wish I could go back, hold her close, and tell her how much I love her, how much I regret what I've done. But it's too late for that now. I phone her sometimes. It's felt good to listen to her voice, it's always filled with love, never anger or blame. She tells me she's praying for me, that she believes I can change, that I'm still her son, no matter what. But I don't deserve her forgiveness. I don't deserve her love. All I deserve is this cell, this punishment for the life I chose. But even here, in this dark place, there's a part of me that hopes. Hopes that maybe, just maybe, I can find a way to make things right. To be the son she always believed I could be. It's a long road, and I don't know if I'll ever get there. But for her sake, for Mama's sake, I have to try. Because in the end, all I can say is, I'm sorry, Mama. I'm so sorry. Months passed, and prison life became my reality. The walls, the bars, the echo of footsteps in the cold, narrow corridors, they all became part of me. The sounds of Crowford's busy streets, the laughter of children playing outside, even the smell of charcoal, these were all distant memories now. In here, I was just another number, another inmate. But every night, when the noise died down and the darkness closed in, I couldn't escape my thoughts. Mother's face haunted me. Her tired eyes, her hopeful smile, her words of advice that I had so foolishly ignored. It was like a movie on repeat in my mind, and I couldn't turn it off. Then one day, I called her and what I heard shook me to my core. It was my mother, but this time her voice was different. It was shaky and weak. She told me she was sick, that the years of hard labor and stress had finally caught up to her. She didn't say much, but I could feel her pain through the words on the phone. My son, I'm not as strong as I used to be. The sickness has taken a toll on me. But I'm still here, still praying for you. I believe in you, Kwame. Don't lose hope. God has a plan for you, even in that place. I dropped the phone, my hands trembling. Mother was sick, and I wasn't there. I wasn't there to take care of her, to be the son she needed, the son I should have been all along. The guilt crashed over me like a wave, suffocating, overwhelming. What kind of man was I? What kind of son? That night, for the first time since I'd been locked up, I got down on my knees and prayed. I didn't know if God would listen to someone like me, but I prayed anyway. I prayed for Mother's health, for her strength, for the chance to make things right. And I prayed for forgiveness, though I wasn't sure I deserved it. The days that followed were a blur. I couldn't concentrate on anything, my mind was consumed with thoughts of Mother. I tried to reach her every day, and any time I get her on the phone I pour out my heart, telling her things I should have said years ago. I apologized over and over again, though I knew words weren't enough. Then, one morning, I was called into the warden's office. My heart pounded in my chest as I walked down the long corridor, my mind racing with possibilities. When I entered the office, the warden looked at me with a mix of pity and solemnity. "Kwame, I have some news. It's about your mother. Your uncles came here last night to pass the news to you, but we didn't allow them in." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I braced myself, but nothing could have prepared me for what came next. "She passed away last 2 days. I'm sorry." Time seemed to stop. The room spun around me, and I felt like I was drowning. Em was gone. She was really gone. The woman who had given everything for me, who had loved me unconditionally, even when I didn't deserve it, she was gone, and I hadn't been there. I hadn't even been able to say goodbye. I collapsed into the chair, my head in my hands, tears streaming down my face. I didn't care who saw me. The pain was too much to bear. I had lost the one person who had always been there for me, the one person who had believed in me, no matter how many mistakes I made. And now, it was too late to make it right. For days, I wandered through the prison like a ghost. Nothing mattered anymore. The other inmates tried to comfort me, but their words fell on deaf ears. How could they understand? How could anyone understand the weight of my guilt, the depth of my regret? But then, something strange happened. Amidst my grief, a thought began to form, a small, fragile thought that slowly grew into something stronger. Mama may have been gone, but her words, her love, her belief in me, they weren't. They were still with me, still guiding me, even from beyond the grave. And so, I made a decision. I couldn't change the past, but I could change the future. I could honor Mama's memory by becoming the man she always believed I could be. It wouldn't be easy, nothing in this place was, but I had to try. For her sake. I started by joining a rehabilitation program in the prison. It wasn't much, just a group of us inmates sitting in a circle, talking about our lives, our mistakes, and our hopes for the future. At first, I didn't say much. But over time, I found myself opening up, sharing my story, my pain. It wasn't about impressing anyone or gaining sympathy, it was about healing. The program also offered skills training, and I signed up for every course they had. Carpentry, welding, tailoring, I didn't care what it was, as long as I was learning something useful. Something that could help me rebuild my life if I ever got out of here. And even if I didn't, at least I'd be making good use of my time. The other inmates started noticing the change in me. Some of them mocked me, saying I was wasting my time, that nothing would ever come of it. But I didn't care. This wasn't about them. This was about Mama. About making her proud, even if she wasn't here to see it. Months turned into years, and I kept at it. I stayed out of trouble, focused on my rehabilitation, and did everything I could to turn my life around. The warden noticed, and so did the guards. They started treating me differently, with respect instead of suspicion. It wasn't much, but it was a start. And then, one day, something happened that I never expected. The warden called me into his office again, just like that day when he told me about Mama. But this time, the news was different. "Kwame, there's been a review of your case. Based on your behavior in here, the parole board has decided to grant you early release." I could hardly believe it. After all these years, I was finally getting out. But this time, I wasn't the same person who had walked into this prison. I was different. I was ready to start over. When I walked out of those gates, the sun hit my face, and for the first time in years, I felt free. Truly free. I knew it wouldn't be easy, nothing in life ever is, but I was ready to face whatever came next. And I knew, deep down, that Mama was watching over me, proud of the man I was becoming. As I walked through the streets of Kumasi, I could still smell the charcoal, still hear Mama's voice in my head. And with every step, I whispered the words that had guided me through all those dark years. I'm sorry, Mama. I'm so sorry. But I'm going to make it right. I promise.